everyone, it's WhisperAudios. Today I'm going to be chatting about the films I've watched at the cinema because I have seen a lot of films lately and I haven't had a chance to do my monthly favourites where I talk about each one per month. So I've got 2 months worth of films to talk about from January and February. And I've just been so busy with work and stuff, like my day job stuff, that I haven't had a chance to just film pretty much, and this is the first time I've been able to film for my channel in like over 4 weeks. Obviously, like I say, because of work, but also because I accidentally ripped up my fingernail the other week, like 2 weeks ago, and a lot of you saw on my Instagram that I had my finger all bandaged up. And basically, to cut a long story short, I had acrylic nails done for the collaboration I did with Eve. So I had really lovely manicured acrylic extensions, and one day I literally wasn't doing a thing. I literally just went to grab some kitchen roll, some like paper towel from its holder in my kitchen, and one of my nails like stubbed itself on the shelf where like it was, and it literally, like, the whole nail ripped up, taking my natural nail with it. So I had a big huge bandage on it for like 2 weeks, and this week is the first week that I haven't had a bandage on it, or a band-aid or plaster or anything, and it looks so ugly. It's like the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm really embarrassed about it because I can't polish it. I can't stick a fake nail onto it. I literally just have to wait for it to grow out, and my nails take, oh my god, it's the longest to grow. I imagine this would take about a year to grow out, if I'm honest, because my nails grow so slow. I'm going to try and take some supplements or something to help it a little bit, but oh my goodness, I'm trying to keep my ugly hand down here and just use this hand to gesticulate. Let me know if you guys have seen some of these films that I'm going to be talking about. I try not to talk about them too much, just like their good and bad points, and I'll try to tell you which one was my favourite at the end. So the first film I watched was 1917, and this is a war film, World War I war film, and it basically follows these 2 young privates, so 2 young soldiers. They are summoned into the general, or the, commander, whatever it is, office or dugout, because we're in trench warfare, and they have to go on a mission to warn another squad, battalion, follows our characters. Like, there's explosions, there's action, there's drama, there are hundreds of extras. It's insane how the camera just moves throughout all of this and never cuts. Well, it does cut, but it's like camouflaged. Even to the point where characters are like walking around a like big expanse of water, and the camera literally follows them across the water. Not a ripple is on the water. And there's another bit where they're in one character is in this like hayloft sort of a thing, like a building, and the camera is right up, and then it goes out the window and down into the street and then continues following this guy. It's unbelievable. The lighting, all the special effects, the explosions, everything, like, it's all practical, and it's just really, really wonderful to see. Like, it's a really visual film. Roger Deakins, the DOP, the director of photography, cameraman, however you want to say it, just unbelievable. And I believe he won the Oscar for that film, which he rightly deserved, because it was an absolute technical achievement, and it blew my mind. In terms of like story, I thought that obviously it's a very quite simple story, you know, deliver the message, save, you know, your fellow soldiers. The tension and the peril were really good. I felt like because it was shot like almost real time, you had that overwhelming sense of urgency that you needed to get somewhere, like, come on, hurry up, sort of thing. The acting, I thought, was, you know, fairly good. One of the guys, I can't remember what his name is, but I felt he didn't really shine as much as the other character, but he was good and believable. And you have like little cameos dotted throughout, like from Colin Firth, Andrew Scott, Benedict Cumberbatch, you know, A-listers were like dotted here and there, which was quite nice. They popped up and then they went away again. It was quite good. Andrew Scott is like my favourite character of that film. He's so funny, in a kind of macabre kind of way. But yeah, I thought essentially it was a really great technical achievement film. In terms of story, it was hard to kind of connect too much to the characters. In a way, I watched the film 3 times, and I felt the second and third viewing were a lot less impactful than the first. I think once you've seen it, the impact of it being a one-shot or one-take film, it loses its impact and it becomes rather slow and monotonous, like you feel the length of the film. But that being said, I looked out for all of the technical bits the second time around and thought, how did the camera move from like there to there? And they must have taken like so many weeks to rehearse that, and I was kind of looking into it in a more technical standpoint. So yes, I really enjoyed 1917. The next film I watched was Jojo Rabbit, and I absolutely love, and I'm going to butcher his name, Taika Waititi, who is the writer and director, and he's also acting in it as Hitler. I love him. I think he is a very talented individual with a very big heart and a very switched on kind of mind. I love his sense of humour, and I love how he just breaks social norms in a very well-mannered and respectful way. And Jojo Rabbit is a kind of testament to that. So basically it follows he loves Hitler to the point where he has an imaginary friend who is Hitler, and he is his spirit guide and helps him to solve his problems, and it's just hilariously funny. You also have Sam Rockwell in it, who plays the drunken kind of rubbish commander of the Hitler Youth. I think he's been kind of let go of the army because he's like got one eye, or like, and he's a horrible drunk. And then you've got Rebel Wilson, who is like his assistant, and also the guy is Alfie Allen, I think his name is, who plays his like assistant as well. And you've got Scarlett Johansson, who plays Jojo's mum. And it's a wonderful tale about Jojo, who is involved in like an accident at the Hitler Youth, and he can no longer be part of the Hitler Youth anymore. And it's his mission to try and spread the Nazi propaganda as much as he can with his limited, after his accident and stuff. And he soon finds out that there is a young Jewish girl hiding in his house, and obviously the Hitler Youth are trained to out Jewish people and, rat their families out, but obviously he loves his mum and he doesn't know what to do. So with the help of his imaginary friend Hitler, he kind of figures out what to do with this young Jewish girl in his attic, in his house. But of course they end up being friends because everyone is the same, and he understands that the Jewish people are not scary or monsters, they're actually just human beings, and he forms a bond with this young Jewish girl. The film is absolutely hilarious, but absolutely devastatingly heartbreaking, all in the same film, which I think is just Dacre's skill and his absolute ingenuity, how to blend those two things together. The cast are phenomenal, and it's really just a pleasure to watch, and I felt myself wrapped up in it and enjoying every single minute of it, and I really, really loved it. It also has some like hidden messages in there too, like Sam Rockwell's character I think is actually gay. That's never explored, but it's hinted at through costume and character choices and character interactions. See if you spot that too. But I really loved it, and the young boy who plays Jojo Betzler is just amazing. He's so cute and funny, and it was a very believable performance. So the next film I watched was the film with Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers, called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And this is a film about a reporter, journalist, I think it's for like Esquire magazine or GQ or something like that, who's doing like a puff piece on the infamous Mr. Rogers, who also, in our community, the ASMR community, is definitely one of those Bob Ross kind of characters who totally gives me ASMR. I love Mr. Rogers, and I only found out who Mr. Rogers was about a couple of years ago, because in the UK we didn't have those programs over here. Our program equivalent would probably be Blue Peter. We didn't really have a identity like a Mr. Rogers over here in the UK in my times in the 90s, when I was a kid in the 90s. So I didn't really know who Mr. Rogers was, but then obviously stumbling across his stuff in the ASMR community, I was totally like captured by him. So the the journalist is notorious for writing very negative articles about people and uncovering secrets about them that people generally don't want to know. So this reporter is quite mean, and Mr. Rogers is obviously like the nicest person in the world, the kindest, most caring person. And this journalist wants to find out if it's all a lie or not. And he goes to talk to Mr. Rogers and interviews him, and obviously he finds out that, he is who he says he is. He's the nicest guy. But the journalist has a lot of issues in his own life, and basically because Mr. Rogers wants to help everyone, he kind of inadvertently spotlights this journalist's problems and tries to subliminally help him. And it's not really a film about Mr. Rogers, it's a film about Mr. Rogers' impact on this reporter and how we see a broken man kind of transform into someone better by the influence of Mr. Rogers. I thought the film was okay. I think if even if I did have a more solid education about Mr. Rogers, I still would have found the film boring because it wasn't about him necessarily. But I found it to be quite sweet and very stylized in a couple of different ways, and I thought that was quite nice. Like the use of miniatures for the cutscenes, I thought was good. The importance of family over work really hit a message with me. And of course, Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers was sublime to watch. And I read somewhere that when they were shooting, it was found out that Tom Hanks was actually related to Mr. Rogers, like by some distant cousin or something like that. So they're actually related. So for him to play him was perfect, and it was a really, really good performance. And I love the way he says, "Hi neighbour." It was really good, and it really made me think I really want to do a Mr. Rogers roleplay on my channel. Get the red cardigan, like a Mrs. Rogers roleplay. Because there was a scene right at the start of that film where he's opening little doors at the beginning, and I nudged my other half and I said, "Oh my god, this is giving me ASMR." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah," when he's opening the doors and explaining. I was like, "Oh, this is so good." It was a really kind of ASMR-y kind of film in some places. So I really enjoyed it, but I didn't love it, if you know what I mean. The next film I watched was Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, and this is the story, I guess, is it a sequel? I don't really know, side story about Harley Quinn after she breaks up with the Joker, and this is Margot Robbie's Jared Leto's Joker. And it basically, Harley Quinn has broken up with the Joker, but she hasn't told anyone yet, and the news hasn't got out, so she's running around Gotham being all like sassily violent and getting on people's nerves and doing whatever she pleases. But then the word soon gets out that her and the Joker have split up, so she's no longer protected by him, and loads of people want to kill her. There's also a storyline which involves a diamond that people want to get, and it's all very like higgledy-piggledy sort of thing. Like, you've got your main storylines about people wanting to kill Harley Quinn, the diamond that needs to be found, and like these other group of people wanting revenge and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought that the storylines were like definitely there, but the editing and the way it was kind of shot, it was all kind of higgledy-piggledy and all over the place. But I felt like that was on purpose because obviously Harley Quinn is totally crazy all the time, and it's from her perspective. So I think that kind of worked. I really liked all the characters. Some were like, I felt a little bit pointless. Maybe they weren't. I don't know, it felt like they kind of came in and were there just to sort of move the storyline in a way that, I don't know, it just felt like they kind of came in and just did a bit and went away again. I thought that oh no, I won't say that because it might be a spoiler and I want to keep it spoiler free. I thought that Ewan McGregor was really good as the villain. He's good in everything pretty much. The production design and the costumes were amazing. I loved everything that Harley Quinn wore. I would totally wear that stuff myself. I loved the fact that she had a hyena as a pet, but I wanted to see more of that. Like, it was cool. I like that. Margot Robbie is obviously like perfect in every single way, and I can't fault her at all in anything she does. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting film, different, but not really anything. I didn't take away anything from it. It was enjoyable whilst I was watching it. And visually it was lovely too. So the next film that I watched was this year's Oscar winner, Parasite. Now, you've probably heard so much talk about this Parasite film, and if you've seen it, I would love to know what you think of it. I thought it was amazing. Honestly, I can definitely see why it won Best Picture, because even though it was, I guess, like a dark comedy, it highlighted so much that is wrong with our community, and not just like, the community of Korea, but obviously it reflects Western culture as well, about how we treat our poor people and how the rich are just rich and keep on getting richer. And there are so many hidden messages in that film that I could reflect on my own life, that it really, really resonated with me. So the storyline is, there's a family, mum, dad, brother, sister, who live in a sub-basement in, I want to say, South Korea, North Korea, in Korea. They're very, very, very poor, and they pretty much just try and make money however they can to survive. The son's best friend works as a English teacher for a very, very rich family, and he's going away traveling or something like that, and he said, well, why don't you take my position? They're so rich, they won't care as long as you're good enough to do it. So he goes along and teaches this young girl English, and whilst they're there, he has the thought that he would try and get his whole family working there in some way or another. So for instance, he gets his sister to be the kids' art teacher. He gets the mum to be the housemaid, the maid and the cook. And he gets his dad as the driver. Through kind of devious ways and infiltrating this gullible, rich family, the whole family ends up working for this rich family without the rich family knowing they're all related. They pretend to be like they don't So by the halfway point, you're thinking, okay, so this family have got what they wanted and it's all going very well for them, until something happens halfway through where you think, oh my god, that was a twist. And it's something that you do not see coming. I mean, I never saw it coming. It was like, wow, we're going there. And it, from there on out, it totally turns the whole film on its head. And it makes you kind of pit the characters against each other, and you kind of feel sorry for a character you didn't really feel sorry for before, and kind of it makes you think a little bit about the lengths that people will go in order to survive and in order to live and to care for their families. And there's a lot of messages in there about poverty, about the rich-poor divide, about basically living off other people in order to survive. And it was just really, really good. I loved it. And it was kind of quirky and funny at the same time. And you kind of do and don't feel sorry for these people. It's really juxtaposing, and I really, really loved it. And the director seems like the nicest guy in the whole world as well. I watched one of his films about 10 or 12 years ago called Host. And that was about a monster who comes and eats people in Korea, kind of like Godzilla meets... Well, it's not like Godzilla, but it's like a monster movie sort of thing, and it's actually really good. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But yeah, that was Parasite, and I loved it. So, the last film I watched, and I actually watched this last night, was The Invisible Man, starring Elizabeth Moss. Now, most of you know what The Invisible Man is. It's a book by H.G. Wells, and it's basically a scientist who figures out a way to make himself invisible. I can't remember what happens in the book. I have actually read the book, but I don't really remember it too well because I was quite young when I read it. So this is Blumhouse and Universal's adaptation of the book. And it basically follows this woman, played by Elizabeth Moss, who has been in an abusive relationship, and she runs away from this man who we don't really know anything about. We just start with her. So she's clearly terrified and has finally figured out a way to escape from him. It seems like she's being held against her will in some way. So she escapes, and for a couple of weeks it's all fine, and she's kind of trying to get on with her life. Then she experiences some weird things happening, like things will have disappeared where she thought they were. Some like doors opening, or she feels like someone's behind her, sort of thing. And she thinks that it's her boyfriend or whatever he is to her, coming back to spy on her or to terrorize her, because, I mean, this is never mentioned in the film, like, fully. It's just hinted at, and you see visuals and stuff like that, but he's some kind of optics scientist, so he works in the field of cameras and optical things like that. It's never like, I am a scientist and I'm going to explain what I'm doing and blah blah blah. It's never like that, and I love that, because I hate it when films like over-explain what's happening in a scientific kind of way. But anyway, so she's like, oh my god, it's my boyfriend. He's like managed to turn himself invisible, and he's come to like take me away or terrorize me because he's like a narcissistic sociopath and that's what he does, and that's why I wanted to get away from him and all of that. And everyone's like, don't be stupid, it's not that, because actually he's dead. So, spoiler, sorry. So anyway, she is adamant that it's all a lie. He's manipulated the whole situation. She's not going crazy. It's really him, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, a series of events happen, and I can't really ruin it too much, but basically she ends up in a mental institution where, some things have happened and she's dangerous, but obviously it's like she says it's a setup. Her boyfriend's done all this because like he's invisible and stuff like that. So I won't tell you what happens at the end because it's actually quite hard not to like spoil it in a way. I really anticipated this film. I thought it was going to be really, really rubbish because the Mummy reboot was really rubbish and I really didn't enjoy that. And I really enjoyed like H.G. Wells' stuff and The Invisible Man as well, and I was really intrigued to see how they would turn it into a modern day tale, and this was fantastic. It's basically about domestic abuse, pretty much. If you take away the Invisible Man element, you've got this woman who is terrified of this person she is with, and she's desperately trying to escape him. Yet everything she does, he is always one step ahead. And he is trying to frame her and make out she is a bad person when really he's the one that's manipulative. He's been lying and he's been abusing her. And if you take away all the sci-fi stuff for a minute, that's essentially what domestic abuse is. You're, the person who you have fallen in love with manipulates you, lies to you, makes you feel mad, controls your thoughts, controls your speech, and even when you do finally escape, it's almost like they're haunting you. You're always thinking, are they going to be outside my door one day, or are they going to hurt someone I love just for revenge, or are they going to do something to me that's going to hurt me? Unless that person is dead, you have no closure. They're always going to be out there, and they're always going to be you're always going to be fearful of them. So the deeper message of The Invisible Man is perfect, and the title is even perfect, The Invisible Man, because an abusive partner is invisible to the whole world. Only you know what's really going on behind closed doors. So the domestic abuse is invisible. You might as well be invisible because no one believes you and nobody can see what you're talking about. So I thought that was fantastic and perfect, and it was done very well. The tension was so tense, and I jumped so many times. There were some really kind of tense and jumpy bits. I thought the effects of The Invisible Man were really good. Like, there's a bit where he gets her by the throat and like lifts her up, and it's so good. You can see like where the fabric was being kind of pushed and squeezed, but nothing was there. And there were a lot of moments where something happened, and if you weren't paying attention, you would miss it. Like, there's a bit where she puts a knife down on the counter, but it gets swiped off the side. But because you're so focused on what's happening over here, you're not focused on what's going on here. And I just caught it out the corner of my eye. And it was really good. Like, stuff like that was fantastic. And the build-up and the tension, and it was just so good. I really loved it. So this is really difficult now to pick out my favourite one, because there were a lot of good films that I watched, and ones that I wasn't too sure about. I think out of all of them, I would say Parasite and The Invisible Man were my favourite. If I had to pick one that was... Oh, it's really difficult because they're both equal in my head. Jojo Rabbit is a close third. I would say let's go for The Invisible Man because I just watched it recently. Then Parasite and then Jojo Rabbit. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it.